Uh, and I will call out Bob Palmer first because he's I think he's a late bloomer musician. So he has some things to share about Toastmasters. Bob Palmer is officially the District 12 historian. And since we're going to get into memories, we'll get back and forth as much as we can from people online and people in person. But Bob, I'd like to have you speak first since I twisted your arm so hard. I know you'll only use gestures with one hand, but I'm glad you were here. Go to it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Trouble is, I don't have access to all of my PDFs that I could put up on the share. Does Rob have that?
Rob, do you have the any of those things he said that you can use or not?
Let me see if I can find them. One of the best ones was the list of DTMs ever since we first started.
Great list. Thanks.
Okay, I found it. Let me put it up on the share. That means I have true grit. There we go. In case you haven't seen this, DTM started in 1970. 64 was ATM, Able Toastmaster. And then they thought that was too hard. So in 68, they came up with CTM, which is Competent Toastmaster. Just finishing the basic manual, you became a CTM. But I went through all the old Toastmaster magazines, and the DTMs were put up in every issue up until July of 2008. And they stopped putting new DTMs in the magazine. Can everybody see this? So the very first DTM listed in the magazine was somebody named Tom Jameson. Anybody know him? Who got his DTM earlier in 1980, but it wasn't until in the magazine until the November issue, the November of 1980 issue. And then I'm not going to read all these, but 1981, all the way down to the start of District 12, 1989. And it's got the clubs that they were in, the clubs that they were in, 2 from Pomona Valley and 3 from Grand Terrace and all that. So this is just the first page. The second page that I haven't pulled up yet, we're going to put this on the district website too. All the distinguished Toastmasters ever since we started, not only in District 12, but starting from founders. Yeah, look at some of those names. Some of them are dearly departed, like Jerry Weitzman, Vernon Bragg, Chuck Weck, Marion Bell, Marv Ehrenberg, Pat Hennessy. Anyway, you get the idea.
I don't think love it, Bob. Thank you. Love it.
I like doing.
You're still there? That is?
I like doing history because it validates my meager existence.
Yeah, one real quick story about the you can talk about Illinois, where you were involved with getting a plaque posted.
Yeah, that's a longer story. I found the actual building that was built in 1896, where Ralph Smedley tried his very first attempt at a Toastmaster club at the YMCA in Bloomington, Illinois. Nobody knew the building was still there, but I found out it's on the corner of Main and Market in Bloomington, Illinois. And I had a plaque commissioned by a monumental company. They make gravestones and all that fun stuff. All the way from Riverside, California, 2,000 miles away. I had a $350 plaque made, and they put it on the outside of the building. It's on my blog, Toastmasters at 100, Toastmasters100.blogspot.com.
All right. Well, if we ever get to Bloomington, and we probably will, because I have a friend nearby, we'll go get there and get a picture taken with it. And I'm glad you brought up that DTM, because I happened to bring something that you might recognize. Was my first DTM medallion, which Connie's going to have to read the back, make sure, because they numbered them.
Yep. They numbered them. Mine's 3729.
And what's this one?
I can't read it.
Oh, anyway, so I can't read. Maybe Richard can read it. He's younger than either one of us.
I thought that Bob Palmer got the first DTM in District 12. Is that the
He
case?
did.
Yep.
He did.
Yay, Bob.
I was the first one to push all the paperwork
You read
over
that? No,
after
you'll find
July
somebody here
1st
young
when
enough to
we
read.
started in 1989.
Thank you, Bob. And
But
my
a lot of
first
the work
DTM,
A lot of the work I did was while we
81180
were in
on
Founders.
Jameson, number 1033.
1033. Okay. All right.
And-
Yes, Bob was first in District 12. Mine was in Founders District before we split off. And Kent Peterson, I finally found somebody with young enough eyes to read it. 1033. And Greg, you have a numbered one too, don't you?
5120.
wow.
37.
All right.
My
Anyway,
first
we got.
DTM was in the
Uh,
1053.
I stand corrected, 4620.
Okay. Well, anyway, we heard a couple of stories. Now let's hear from someone that's here. Richard, you want to start?
Yes.
All right. We're going to try to go back and forth a little bit from people that are here and people that are not. Connie and I will try to wait till last because we have a couple of people coming in at the end. We have some wonderful stories about our people who volunteered in prison clubs for 30 years. Daryl Zeller and Randy Emolino, past international director Richard Snyder.
Are you able to? Yeah. Sure.
Oh, you need a microphone.
Oh, well,
No,
I'm pretty loud, but I'll
and
get
obnoxious
my,
too. But
okay. Thank you. Well, first of all, does anybody recognize, well, Bob Palmer's speech goes well into my segues into my speech. Does anybody recognize that gentleman?
Yep.
Chuck Wick, yes, Chuck Wick.
It's very small. Can you blow it up a little bit?
I know. Richard Swack is wearing an actual Toastmaster tie. Is that true?
Okay.
Well, all right, that's Chuck Wick. For those who don't know, I'm going to give a little background about two Toastmasters that were early pioneers in District 12, and certainly Chuck Wick was my first mentor. He was District Governor number 3 in District 12 from 1991 to 1992, and I joined Toastmasters in 1991. I remember my first contest. I still enjoy contests, but this was in probably early 1992, March, and I think it was a humorous speech contest, but I'm not positive. I sat down at a table, and right across from me were this nice couple, Chuck Wick and his wife, Dolores. So they were two of the first Toastmasters I met, not the first two, but certainly early on in my Toastmaster years. They became wonderful friends. Chuck was my first mentor, at least leadership mentor. He started out as a musician. He was a music major in college, and those who knew Chuck, it didn't quite fit the picture. So he started out as a teacher, music teacher, and it was probably very frustrating for him. Those who know Chuck, he doesn't come across as a musician. He comes across as a very warm person, but not a musician. Well, he realized it too early on, so he went back to school and became an engineer. maybe reverse of what you did, and had an outstanding career as an engineer. While at college, he went University of Wisconsin at Madison. This is a great story. He was at a dance. He's a music major, and he's very much an introvert, probably sitting on the outside of the wall and thinking, my God, it wasn't the type to really mingle with people. Well, they had this, women would take off a shoe and put it in the middle of the floor. And the guys were supposed to go and select a shoe and then find out whose shoe this belonged to, kind of like Cinderella. Well, lo and behold, the shoe he picks up, his future wife, Dolores Weck. So that was a great story that they would tell and share at many meetings. Chuck was one of those who loved to help and support. Long after his years as district governor were over, he continued to lead wherever needed. He was a database chair for District 12 for many, many years. He put together the directory for many, many years. He was the images editor for several years. So just about whatever the district needed, he would fill that position. Another great story that Dolores and Chuck would share frequently is during his term, and Tom is a past district governor, Scott and Kent, and we all know there's a lot of number crunching. And it was getting close to the end of the year. I imagine it's probably March, and it was kind of looking, no, it's going to be real close. So we got Dolores to join Toastmasters. Oh, later on, her claim to fame was that she was a double per cap. She joined in March and then renewed in April, so she helped the district. She counted twice. Now, the district made it that year by a total of 14. So technically, even if she hadn't joined, the district would have made it. But Chuck was a wonderful mentor for many, many Toastmasters. You asked him, and he was there. And if you'll forward to the next picture, Chuck was born, by the way, in November of 1929. His older sister, or at least she claimed to be his older sister, was born November 2nd of 1929, 2 weeks older than Chuck. And she said, oh, he's my baby brother. And that is the person on our left, not the other one. The one on our left is Kay Starr. The one on the right is a very young, handsome Richard Snyder. So this is obviously a few years ago. Kay Starr is maybe the first Toastmaster I met. And I've given a speech many, many times about, I had failed my first year as a teacher, and the supervisor said, boy, if you ever want to teach again, you better find Toastmasters. Well, one day I was looking through the newspaper, and there was a little blurb about Toastmasters Success Leadership Module, if you remember those. And I went there, and they mentioned somebody named Kay Starr. I thought, Kay Starr? Could it be? I love music, and I don't know, this goes way, way back. There's a great singer named Kay Starr. She started out in the big bands, was very popular, really hit it big in the 1950s with songs like Wheel of Fortune. So I was really excited. Well, it turned out to be another Kay Starr. But what a wonderful Kay Starr. We met at that Success Leadership module. She followed Chuck Weck. She was district governor number 4 in District 12 history. And the great thing, like Chuck, her term finished, she was successful, and she continued to serve. She was, I love one of the things about Kay, she was very, talked about herself in a very nice way. And she said, you know what, I'm so old that I competed against Moses in the first tablet topic contest. Well, after her term as district governor was over, 1992, 93, and those of us who've been around for a while probably remember she was out almost every Toastmaster District 12 event taking pictures. And one great thing that if you served as a District 12 governor, she would give you a wonderful collage at the end of your term. And over the years, this has a prominent place in my office, something I look at every once in a while. It was 25 years ago that I served District 12 governor, and wonderful memories of great people like Chuck Weck, who's in here several times, and of course, K-Star. And then she also usually gave a memento, a book of pictures, and said, this is your year. And it's really true. As you go back and you look through the picture, you realize, yeah, she really did encapsulate the year. So 2 wonderful treasures in District 12. They're up above now in Toastmaster heaven, I'm sure, leading a Toastmaster meeting. Oh, thank you, Chuck and K-Star, for all the wonderful memories you gave us. I'll turn this around, but if you'd like to see it later. Oh my gosh. Oh yes.
Oh,
That's
no,
wrong.
not that. Oh,
I'll take that one back.
I bet you will. All right. Thank you, Richard. I put Connie and myself toward the end to speak because I knew every time something came up, I'd remember a story that could be added. So I'll be able to squeeze out a few minutes of my own time. But your story about the shoe and romance reminded me of 2 particular romantic stories. In 1979 or 1980, Phoenix, Arizona had an international convention. It was the first international convention that provided pins as souvenirs for going to the convention. And at that convention, we took 2 people that we had barely met that they said they needed a ride. So they came along in the motorhome while Connie and I were in the front with driving the motorhome to Phoenix, Arizona. A gentleman by the name of Paul Speaker and Nancy, and I don't remember her last name, but they got to know each other. In fact, the longer they were in the motorhome, the more familiar they got to know each other. And it seemed to me it got awfully quiet for quite a while we were driving down the highway. And we remember that Nancy's story was that she joined Toastmasters to become a speaker. And she ended up marrying Paul Speaker. And so she did become a speaker. Yes, Richard.
Rob can show it quickly, but K-Star at our conferences, we would have a communication leadership recipient, and her communication leadership recipient was K-Star the singer, and the theme was discover the star within you or something. So that's me again, along with K-Star the singer in the middle, and then of course our district governor K-Star. K-Star died in their 90s. I think she was 91 or 92. About 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Both a wonderful lady.
Well, the other romance story, once upon a time, someone probably can tell me, Bill Cordes, Bill Cordes was one of the very first 452, right? Number 6. Anyway, while he was district governor, they had a singles club. And he joined that singles club, and this lady would belong to the singles clubs, and they met each other, and he ended up marrying her, being married forever and ever and ever until she died. But that singles club ended up dying because everybody got married.
That's right. That was
So-
called 2330. It was Success
go
for
ahead, Lois.
Singles. Success for Singles.
So now those people that are interested in starting a new club, I think maybe you have an idea there, a gem of an idea. Let's start another singles club in District 12. Maybe we can start families or something. Who knows? But anyway, by the way, Lois, I see you there, and even though we have had our confrontations in the past, I want you to save a few words for us a little bit later. Okay, are you going to hang on and
Well, I'm
get
always
your 2
generous
cents
with
in?
my thoughts. Tom, what would you like me to speak about?
Yeah, the only thing I got to remind you is remember I get to speak after you, so you have to be a little gentle. Okay,
I'm
all
always
right, let's
gentle with
go
you.
on. We
Love
have
you, Tom.
we've had I know. We're just having fun here. Okay, let me see. I see some other people on. Do I have one of my people that I at least knew was going to speak, ready to speak right now? Does I do see Daryl and Randy made it. And so you guys want to do a tag team thing and come on and do some things about, I know you've got some great stories about the prison clubs, but you may have some other things too. Both past District Governor Daryl Zeller and Randy Emilino, both which about 30 years of experience helping others in the prison clubs. Go ahead, guys.
Yes, Tom, we did decide we would like to do a tag team effort on this because neither one of us really has good memories at our ages. However, once we start talking, we kind of jar each other's memories a little bit. I'll start out by just saying that I got invited to go to the California Institution for Women, that they wanted to have a club. There was a long-termers organization that wanted to have a club. I went out there, met with them, and this is in 2001. Met with them, there was 10 people there. They had decided to do a speech craft with 2 people facilitating it, and the other 8 people each had to do a speech every week. When I went out there, the first night I was there, they were doing the speeches. They said, okay, he's an experienced Toastmaster. He's going to be our expert. He'll evaluate all of us. And it was going along fine until one of the ladies got up. She was over 6 feet tall. She came standing right over me, and I do mean over me, and said that I can lick any man there is. And you better believe it.
He's being polite with the language.
Yeah, well, actually, no, not polite with the language. But anyway, when we got done and I was to evaluate her, I evaluated her speech based on the fact that she talked into the wall and the voice did not carry to the entire audience. And I didn't say one word about the fact. And she literally 3 weeks later said, "Ah, he's my best friend." Now, I kind of twisted Randy's arm when I was the district governor to have him come and join me because we actually formed a second club out there and it needed to have somebody work with that club. And Randy volunteered to come out and help with a little bit of arm twisting. And he has been involved with this ever since. And I'd just like to share with you, I had Randy share with you a story about when he got to evaluate this one lady. So Randy, take it away.
It was a great story. She came up and she wanted to introduce her life and her family and everything that she learned from her mom's sister, her aunt. The entire, well, all the ladies on the side of the family, and she had a great opening. She said that her family, all the women, loved to knit. They had this what do they call them?
Hookers.
Hookers. They were called hookers. They had this nickname, but they were all about knitting. You know, they did all these great knitting tool movements and everything. She was up there. She was showing how to knit, and she had her props and everything. And she had a box to the side, and she started bringing out these garments that she had made. And I had to look a little closer what she had in her hand, and it was a small, sort of like, and she showed, it was like a bikini top, but it was very, very small. And it turned out, you know, it was, we thought that she was talking about hookers, as in streetwalkers, but she wasn't. She was actually talking about knitting. So she got us. She got me, and she got Daryl. And boy, my face turned shades of red. Yeah, boy, it was a great speech. One of the best speeches I can remember, anyway.
And actually, I remember that story a little bit differently.
Probably
because
bad memory.
he was in one room and I was in another room at the visiting center. And all of a sudden I heard all this laughter going on out there.
Right.
And Randy was to evaluate this gal, and then when he went to evaluate, they introduced her. Her subject was my life as a hooker.
That's what it was.
And everybody knew what was coming except for Randy. He's trying to slide underneath a folding chair.
Right.
And then she starts talking about how her mother and her aunt gave her these hints on being a hooker. It wasn't until she was about 3 minutes into her speech before she identified that it was knitting. So by this time, Randy was trying underneath the chair, and all the women in that group were just laughing hysterically.
They got me.
Got Randy good.
They got me. It was good. But it was that camaraderie, that neat fellowship, that bringing into the flock, so to speak, that the girls sort of brought Daryl and I both in their different ways. Great experience.
And I'll tell you, when you go out there to the prison, you get to meet some very, very interesting people. Personally, I met I've met 3 of the women that were with Charlie Manson, and the one that was a master manipulator. She tried to manipulate me one night, and literally, I just looked at her and publicly said, "You ever try that again, I'm taking this program out of here." And back there in 2003, 2004, I could have done that.
Yeah.
And the other ladies were there, went and said to her, "Don't ever do that again."
Yeah.
So she got put in her place, and literally, here it is, 25 years later. The clubs are still, that club is still going strong. The other club, the second club that we had, it folded due to lack of interest. But back then, it was a lot of fun. And I've stayed with the women throughout the years, but I did go out to Chuckawalla Valley State Prison to help getting the club started out there. And we had 52 men in this educational room that were interested. And they were all interested in joining, and the dues were going to be paid by the fund that they had out there. No problem. But I said, we can't have 52 people in the club. I said, we need to limit this to 25 people. Maybe we can start a second club. And they told us, no, you can only have 1 club per yard. And consequently, they did wind up with 5 clubs out there because they had 5 yards. And Randy has been working with the California Institution for Men for many years, and the California Rehabilitation Center.
Norco.
Yeah, Norco. And Randy, you want to tell us a little bit about your experiences with the men?
Well, the men are great. Again, you work with these people and they're very, very excited to learn how to be better presenters, how to talk better to the officers, to the counselors, to whoever. Now, mind you, a lot of these guys have been in prison for many, many, many years. And during the time they've been there, they've come to their realizations. Yeah, they did bad. They've come to Jesus, so to speak. And they've settled down into educating themselves. And that's part of the rehabilitation part of the prisons, is to get educated. So a lot of these guys have their masters in different degrees, and they're very, very smart guys. But they still have that jail talk, sort of street talk that they wanted to overcome, which that was my purpose, to help them overcome that and to start being able to talk normally. So when they go to a board, that they sound different, that they are really, really sincere and very, very real. Before Toastmasters, these guys were having troubles with that. These days, I got to tell you, some of the brightest guys, one of the hardest manuals that we have, I think all of us will agree, is interpretive reading. Now, I have 2 guys right now doing that, And we're all kind of doubtful that they were going to get through it, but sure enough, they did. And both the guys just nailed their interpretive reading down to the letter, down to the comma, the positive pause, everything about what you're supposed to do as in that manual, these guys nailed. So it's been quite an experience. I've loved it. It's been great.
Well, Randy did say one thing, but they're used to the yard talk or the cussing.
No, yeah.
Well, the very first thing that we tell them when we go in there is no cussing, no yard talk, no vulgarity. This is a place for you to learn how to speak with your employer and with the customers so that you do not offend the people. And literally, we've watched this happen. And back, in the early years when I was working out at CRC, we had two clubs for the men down there.
Yeah.
Started on the same night, but one of the gentlemen turned around and he said that he got up and he started talking. I called him a gentleman. I really shouldn't have done that. He's one of those who bragged about being in jail 9 different times. But he started using MF words, and the other inmates stopped him and said, "We don't talk like that here. You do not use that language here." And he told them exactly what to do with themselves, so they did. They threw him out of the room and said, "Don't you ever come back." Literally, they policed themselves because they wanted to learn and they wanted to be better. I don't know how much time we have, but Randy and I could probably go on for until 9:30 or 10 o'clock, telling you different stories, different people we've met there. And
one thing I wanted to make sure that you brought up is all the years you put in, and for many of those years they had to pay full club dues, and part of that money was raised by active Toastmasters in District 12, and they deserve a lot of credit. But the result was, I remember you told me once, of all the people you saw, both of you, in those 30 years, only one of them did you ever see come back, and that didn't sound like they probably even they should have come back. It was just a mistake of one quick mistake of judgment. But so that shows that there's a lot of results from your effort.
There was a parole violation. You're not supposed to go to a place that has liquor. The lady went to a restaurant that served liquor
after a Toastmasters meeting.
After a Toastmasters meeting, and she was invited to go along with the group, and oops. But I'm sure she got back out and became involved again. I don't know.
She rejoined the group of the Toastmasters. I do not know what has happened to her since she's been out, but we've had other ones. Well, I've been involved since 2001. So it's 25 years. And during that time, I've had one person who came back. I know of another person who actually learned about Toastmasters while he was at Chuckawalla. He went to join the club, but they transferred him to another prison, so he never got a chance to join. But when he got out, he contacted Tom, and Tom said, "Oh, well, Daryl's worked with the prison, so maybe you should contact him." This gentleman joined us, and he worked diligently. Once again, it was a little violation that he got back another 120 days in prison, but he's out. He's a DTM, and he has his own business. He's remarried and got a family again. So he's a qualified.
And he is a qualified speaker in District 12. We're proud of that, even though he is out of state. So when he's here, he has spoken to Kiwanis Club and so on with his story. So that's really special. Okay, I better go on, but guys, don't go away. We may still have a little time at the end, but I want to get to some of our people in person. Kent, past District Governor Kent Peterson, please come up. And if you get a chance to go on YouTube, you might look up a District Governor, a Speakers Bureau meeting that happened a number of years ago, and I can't remember the exact year, but it happened on December 7th, I can tell you that, when it was a celebration of recognition of maybe 75 years of Pearl Harbor. Wonderful program. It is still available on YouTube. Okay.
Thank you for having me here, Tom. And I looking at some of these people up here, and I can tie some of the things in that I wanted to say. First of all, I saw Randy and Daryl up here, and one of the things I wanted to talk about was my experience going out to the prisons with them. And that was probably the first year or second year I was in Toastmasters. What an experience that was. I also went with a lady by the name of Ruth Kep to the halfway houses that she had for the women, and I experienced that. And you think these people that are in these environments are just there spinning their wheels and wasting their time. And that's not what I experienced. I experienced people that wanted to get ahead and wanted to advance themselves. And through Ruth and Daryl and Randy, boy, what an experience. And I was listening to Forrest earlier today, and he's talking about planting the seeds. And planting the seeds, I look at the people that are up here on the monitor, and I look at Michael Ozier, I look at Lois Sicking, I look at Angie Nett, and who I might be missing here. But all these people had a seed that they planted when I was in Toastmasters. They all were people that I enjoyed being in Toastmasters. And Toastmasters is that organization that is there to plant that seed and watch it grow. And it can be late in life or it can be early in life. And I think Toastmasters is such an important organization. And I'm glad to see the people up here on the screen. And I'm happy to see all the people that are here. Some of you I haven't seen in years. And it's all I have to say, Tom. And I say thank you. And thank you to Connie and you for all the time that you put in on this. That's it.
Okay, all right, thank you. I'm glad you brought up Ruth Kep because I remember going to some of her halfway houses and she did those for years and years and years, sometimes footing the bill to keep them going herself. And she had one for women and one for men. And I got a story that goes with the one for women. And I went one time she called me and she says, I want you to come to my next meeting of my girls here in Riverside. And I can't remember the name of the organization, but she was there for years and years. And she said, you need to come to the next one. I said, well, sure. If you want me to be there, I'll be there. And it turned out what the story was that she had had a table topic for these girls. And by luck, by pure chance, she asked the question that went to one girl, who was your favorite teacher? And she said, Mr. Jameson from Lincoln High School. And Ruth's ears perked up and she said, oh, okay. And then she went on, but she wanted me to be there at the next meeting. And I came to the next meeting and then she said, you stay hidden in the hall. Don't let anybody see you when the kids are coming. Kids, adults, young adults. And so they were there partway through the meeting and then somebody knocked on the door, whatever the signal was, I was supposed to walk in. And the girl just could not believe that Ruth Kep knew me and that I came in. And the story was that I'd long since forgotten it, but I had bought her a prom dress. The only dress she ever went to a prom was in the dress that we bought her. So that was a very, very special memory. And Ruth is a very, very special person, dedicated. And she is one of the ones that convinced me to go into leadership. When I came back after I retired, she said, well, you need to do something. So after that, because that's what I did. Okay, I'm going to call on an online person next. And Lois, are you ready to share your words of wisdom? I want to introduce Lois. Lois and I, the reason I kind of mentioned that we were nemesis, not really, because I ended up running against her when she was running for office and she beat me. But then I went back. I paid her back because I ended up being one of her division governors, and she had to deal with that. So, anyway, Lois, so share a few words for us. I think unmute.
And Becky is in the house.
We can go on and come back to you if that's okay. All right. I see Angie's there. And if you have a few minutes, Angie, we may ask you to speak, not now, but toward the end, to describe a little bit about what your plans are for June. I already talked it up a little bit, but maybe you have more to share or maybe not. But we'll come back to you in a bit toward the end of the meeting. And let's see. Let me see. Oh, Michael, I see Michael's here. And maybe I'll ask April to say a few words. And the words I would like April to share would be especially to talk about Gavel clubs. Gavel clubs are extremely close to my heart, and I first heard from, attended one that was very successful, and I'll talk about another one. But April, do you have anything to say about Gavel clubs? You're my go-to person in terms of a young person that was influential on people in Gavel club. And if anything else you might want to share, or a few minutes. April? If I don't hear from you right away, we'll go back to Lois.
What's the question
Okay.
there?
Okay, Lois, go ahead. I missed you before, so go ahead now.
Go ahead with what? I'm sorry, I left for a minute.
Anything you might want to share.
Oh,
You
I
have any
do love
memories of
District 12.
12 you want to
Oh,
share?
my first memory of District 12 was K-Star. And that was a long time ago in lessons far away. I came into District 12 in 1994 as a speech crafter. And after my sixth speech, I already had other plans what I would do on Friday evenings. And that was not being part of Toastmasters. But K-Star, wow, what a leader. K-Star, there was a gentleman, not a gentleman, but there was a Toastmaster named Terry Weiss who came in and said, who spoke up against Marianne Morgan, later Marianne Cordes, about being the Club 2330 president. And K-Star stood up for her and gave an eloquent speech about how it takes everyone to build a successful club. And I thought, I don't know what that was I just saw, but I want to be like K-Star. And that was 35 years ago. Here I am today. And I am now promoting, I try to raise leaders up like K-Star did way back when. So Toastmasters is a lifestyle. And K-Star taught me that many years ago. And so I honor her, and I'm proud to be part of the Toastmasters leadership program. Back to you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Lois. And one name that Connie mentioned to me, not to be forgotten, we mentioned Ruth Kep, but also Kay Mellon worked a lot with us halfway houses too. So she just, I mean, for decades, she worked with them and made a lot of difference, I'm sure, in the world. Okay, Scott, Past District Governor Scott McGuckin, he's in the house, so come on up.
Scott.
And yes, we're getting a chance to hear from people from all kinds of experiences. And I was under Scott, so Scott maybe he's got stories to tell about me.
You got there?
I have one thing to tell about Scott, though, before we go any further. He started a tradition that involved a bottle of Dom Perignon.
I remember that. Hey, Scott.
His challenge to us was that if we became a distinguished district, we would drink Dom Perignon at the International Convention. Everyone from District 12 that showed up at the convention would have a chance to drink Dom Perignon, which $150 a bottle or whatever it was. And when we got there, every one of us got a large tablespoon of Dom Perignon. We enjoyed every swallow of it.
Well, thank you for that memory, Tom. You know, when Tom called yesterday asking if I had memories to share, and I didn't write anything for the memory book, I thought, well, yeah, I do. And so thank you for the opportunity to share some of those. You know, imagine a place where you can go and make a mistake, and it has the power to change a life. From Diamond Bar to Barstow, from Temecula all the way up to, well, actually, Temecula to Barstow, Diamond Bar to Blythe. What a broad and diverse area we have as District 12. Since 1989, some 37 years, we've been a district, and we've transformed as a region, haven't we? You know, it used to be lots of grape vineyards and citrus, and now we have houses and houses and houses and large factories and warehouses. But we also have world-class communicators, and that's because of what we've done as Toastmasters. District 12, we've built mayors of cities. We've built city council people, city clerks, fire chiefs, administrators for the courts, entrepreneurs, many lives we've changed and been able to advance. We provide that positive learning environment, which everyone has an opportunity to find their voice and change their world. For instance, this Speakers Bureau, going out to the Kiwanis clubs, the Rotary clubs, and other chambers of commerce, letting them know of the value of public speaking and what our individual clubs have to offer. Times have changed in the last 35 years. I think, being involved in an organization for 35 years, times have really, really changed. Back in the day, I think Ruth Kemp was the district governor, and I was an area governor. And at that time, we received tear sheets that had our DPRs, our performance statistics. They came on very faintly printed tear sheets that were about 2 weeks old, and that's how we monitored the progress of our clubs. So it was really important, especially at the end of the term, when you're trying to get all those awards in, that you have them submitted. Big thing that we would do is we didn't have the internet. Well, the internet was around. It started in the 90s, I guess, 80s. But we faxed our paperwork in. That was about the fastest way outside of putting a postage stamp on it and mailing it to Rancho Santa Margarita. So we'd fax it in. And most importantly, we'd always ask whoever faxed it in, do you have the receipt? that important receipt to show that the fax went through. And that's how we monitored our progress. And then a month or month and a half after the district, June 30th, we'd find out if we were distinguished or not. Kind of an interesting way of the way things rolled up. I also was mentored by Chuck Weck in Club 7213 in Division A. He was the first person to tell me, Scott, you've got to get an email. You've got to get online. And I'm a late bloomer. I was very slow at getting online. I finally did get an account, and the rest is history. Now you get more email and stuff than ever. Also, Kay Presto's name came up. She was active in Club 2330 for Success for Speakers. It's now titled Success for Speakers. It was Success for Singles. She and I hit it off really well because the first position I held as a club officer was public relations. And Kay Presto knew public relations like the back of her hand. She was the first female journalist that covered NASCAR, an all-man sport at that time. And she was able to get in to see the drivers. The drivers wanted to talk to Kay because she'd get them in the newspaper. She'd get them in the magazines. So technology has changed, people have changed. We've changed lives. I know as an area governor, I think it was my first time as area governor, and there was a new city, the city of Chino Hills, had just become a city. And a district governor from another district lived in Chino Hills, Dan Kopalski. And he started a club in that city. And I was the area governor, went over to pay an official visit. Well, at that meeting, there was a guest. You know how we treat guests at a Toastmaster Club meeting. She became a member. A few years later, she became a competent Toastmaster. And amazingly, when I was district governor, she became distinguished Toastmaster, and I was able to give her the award and send through the hug line. So we change lives. The other thing I look at is those that have just gone above and beyond for the district. And those are people that have received presidential citations from the president of Toastmasters International. People like Chuck Weck, Brenda Keeling, Bill Cordes, Greg Scott, Michael Bain, Paul Clark, Daryl Zeller, Sandy Amelino, Michael O'Shure, and I'm sure there's a couple of others that my regional directory doesn't. Oh, Tom Jameson. Tom Jameson. How could I forget Tom? And Sandy Amelino, yes.
Chaco Keiki. One member.
That does bring back a memory. I had the privilege of being trained in Hawaii. Now that's a real tough assignment when you're in the top 3 and you have to go to Hawaii and you have to be trained. But we were on a break. And Tom, Don Tungate, and myself went and found a quiet spot by the pool. And we were calling here to the mainland, making sure you're getting your memberships in. You're getting your memberships in. Chaco Keiki was the district governor that year. And what's significant about that is that year, that one member, it took that one member, put us over the top to be distinguished. And so amazing, simply amazing. Those are some memories that I have, and I'm looking forward to what Toastmasters has to bring, because the best is always yet to come.
Hey.
Thank you.
I won't talk too much longer, but you're talking about the fax machine. If I have a big claim to fame as district director, district governor, we became distinguished. All of our divisions were distinguished, select distinguished or better, and all of our areas were distinguished, which had never happened before. It only happened in 2 or 3 districts in the whole world at the time. But the only reason we made that last distinction of having every area distinguished was we kept calling and bugging, and we know that's in, that member is in. All that took is that one member to help that one area, that one so and so and so on. And they finally admitted that they found that one member behind the fax machine. It was the fax that came in, and it fell down behind the machine, and they looked around, and they found it. So we became that select group of every area distinguished, every division select distinguished, only because they found the membership application behind the fax machine. I see an old friend who is one of the top 5 numbers of years of service in our Toastmasters, the one that was there 2 years before Connie. Becky, are you there, ready to say a few words?
Becky, come on, Becky Palmer. And
I'm
Tom,
here.
if you don't mind, I would like to speak after Becky.
Can we hear you?
Becky.
You're a little fuzzy, but then that's not a problem. At our age, we prefer to be a little fuzzy. Anyway,
That's right.
Actually, 40, what is it? 42 more years than you, 47 years?
49.
49 years, 49 years. Okay, Becky.
My turn, huh? Okay. Well, we were still founders, and Club 815 Burnt Toast was just getting started. We were meeting at Bayou Bob's on Adams Street. It's a restaurant, 7 a.m. in the morning, which is a horrible hour to have a Toastmaster club. But we did at that time. We later moved to evening. And we had quite a group that day. We had a few guests. We had quite a few members, it turned out. And we had a very special guest drive all the way from Orange County in traffic. And yes, there was traffic 50 years ago. He came and he gave a warm, motivational speech to our club. His name was Chris Gratsanopoulos, and he was the district director. And it was exciting to have someone of his stature come talk to us. We were excited. Well, Chris gave a real good motivational speech. He talked about how he came over to this country and didn't know any English, and how Toastmasters had helped him. It was exciting, it was fun, and I think he enjoyed it too. As the meeting wound down, I found out that Chris had been up most of the night. He'd worked late, and then his baby kept him up. So he had had very little sleep and was beginning to feel quite tired. I think the caffeine wore off. So I made him a proposition. I told him he could come to my house or my apartment, take a couple hours sleep, miss the morning rush hour down to Orange County, and that way he would be more refreshed. He took me up on it. I took him over to my apartment. I showed him where everything was. And then I went to work. Of all things, I went to work. He was refreshed. He got home safe. He left me a nice little note thanking me for my hospitality. I had dashed home from work at lunchtime to check on him and see how he's doing, and he was gone. That was my one memory of Chris Gratsanopoulos, such a dynamic, charismatic, fun district director or governor at the time. He really inspired our club, and we got a few new members because of that. I felt like putting a sign in my house. The district governor slept here. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Becky. Oh, I'm glad you came and shared that story. And I have to agree. I hope I don't offend any past district governors in the room, and there are quite a few, because yes, Chris Gratsanopoulos was the most charismatic district governor we ever had. He was amazing. He may have had some other flaws, but by the way, under his administration was when they started district-wide debate competition, which I was involved with, along with Ken Averill, one of our other past district governors over the years. And to me, that trophy that I won in the district debate contest that year, that first year, is my most prized possession of all of the contests I've been involved with. So that was a really, he was a really special speaker. Okay, we better not. I'm going to lose a vice chair if I don't let Michael have a few words. Michael, I need some words from our co-chair, Michael Osier, past international director, Michael Osier, co-chair, Speakers Bureau.
Thank you, Tom. My very first Toastmaster experience. Riverside County Public Health, but wanted to start a club because so many of our employees didn't know how to do interviews and weren't getting promoted. So someone said, what about this Toastmasters thing? So we said, sure. They had a meeting with management. I missed the meeting. Then they wanted to do a demo meeting. I said, sure. I didn't go. But finally, they had a real meeting. We were a club.
Well,
And at that very first meeting, you had to elect the president. And by the way, Daryl, Marianne was there, as well as Sandy Amelino. And wouldn't you know it, I got elected president that very first meeting, starting my leadership journey in Toastmasters. The second week, I gave my icebreaker, and one of my direct reports, an employee that reported to me, had to evaluate my speech. I don't know who was more nervous. But the beauty of Toastmasters is we're all equal. It's all the same, and it worked out. And oh boy, all that applause, the lights, the encouragement, the positivity. This was exactly the opposite of everything we did in Riverside County. This was not like any government job. And I realized my life was about to change. And as you know, a year later, I was an area director. I'm glad Becky is here. My first visit to a club was Becky's club. I don't remember which one. I had no idea it was what I was supposed to do. She whispered in my ear through the whole meeting so that I would say the right words, because I didn't know the difference between a division and an area. I didn't know any of that. And she walked me through that experience. And wouldn't you know, from that one meeting, a few years later, I was on the trio, a distinguished district director. And 9 years after we started, I started in Toastmasters on the board of directors. And I always said this to Marianne, to Sandy, to everyone. That new member that you just heard about, the one that whoever found for Chaco be distinguished, that person could be the international president someday and help change all those lives. And what can I tell you? We are making the world a better place as we grow ourselves and really make a difference to our communities. It all starts that very first time you walk into that first meeting. And that, I know, Lois, it gives me goosebumps too. Back to you, Mr. Tom.
thank you, Michael. Well, I'm not going to actually have any memories to share. I have used them all up, but I've got to brag a little bit about. I was the one that worked with one of your staff members said you wanted to. I didn't know who you were. Wanted to start a Toastmaster club, and so we worked and got that club started. For all of you who are out there starting and working on clubs, you never know the end result of what you're going to do, because you just might start a club that ends up with an international director. So you never know or a world champion. Who knows? You might just happen to start a club, and so you're planting those seeds, right, Forrest? Planting those seeds for the future leadership and the future public speakers and influencers. So go out there and start all those clubs that you possibly can. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say, don't forget, if you did not yet get your memory book, you can still do it up until, I think, midnight. But anyway, you can buy them even if you're out of town and you have to have it sent. They will send it to you at your cost. But the books are $15. They run out. You cannot get them anymore if you haven't signed up for the conference. If you go to the conference, you just automatically get it. But if you want to share that memory, that one-time thing, try to get your order in yet today. Go to the Tuesday with the Trio or Tuesday News, and it'll show you how to register for that. Now, I know I best let this next speaker share her thoughts and memories of District 12, because we just shared 100 and some years together, but in terms of our
So, Tom, before we go there, may I make a suggestion? When you get your District 12 memories book, please send it around to everyone and have them autograph it, just like we did in our high school.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I love it. I want your autograph, Tom.
Great suggestion. Great suggestion, Lois. All right. I better call on my wife or I won't have a bed to go home to. I'll have to go sleep at Becky's house.
Oh, horrors.
Oh, Becky, you have a reputation now. My memory is one that was brought to mind. I asked Sandy Amelino if she had something she wanted to share, and she said, well, she didn't think she would be able to share tonight, but she remembered about the hot tub. And I'm sure Richard will. Tom and I have been fortunate to be able to go to several international conventions. The one we went to when he was district governor, I think, was in Connecticut. And they gave us a big old room because they, I guess, thought we'd be having people over to share and plan and so forth. And in this big old room was actually a hot tub, a jacuzzi. I've never had anything like that before. Well, we met up there and maybe we had a little of that Dom Perignon, but pretty soon several of us were hanging out in the hot tub without water, including Richard and his son. I recall them either calling or knocking on the door and saying, could you calm it down a little bit, you Toastmasters? But do you remember that, Richard, being...
Picture Jameson and
Yes. How many can you squeeze in a hot tub? So how many can you squeeze in a hot tub? Toastmasters, quite a few. The other memory is, I'll call it Blue Albatross. When we went, we were supposed to take the district banner, and the district banner had a blue case to protect it. It was all covered up with blue, and I felt very responsible. I did not put that with the luggage. No, it went on the plane with me so it could be in my care. And every place we went, I made sure we had that blue, which became my blue albatross because it was with me all the time. In fact, I told people we even took it to bed with us to make sure nobody would sneak in and steal the district banner. There you go, Tom. The blue albatross story and hanging in the hot tub.
Got more, I've got more memories than that for 47 years, but we're running a little bit late. But I first of all have to explain myself. I have never come and been in charge of the Speakers Bureau. Oh, first of all, I got to thank Lois because I looked it up. Speakers Bureau actually started under her administration, Carlos Bellarezo and somebody else, and that is an example of saying willing to try out a new idea.
Yes,
it started under your term. Halfway through, they started it up, and it, of course, had gone on earlier, but years earlier. But this is when it got started and going out ever since. Thanks to Lois's being willing to open up to a new idea. So thanks again, Lois.
Thank you, Tom, for that recognition. I
And
appreciate
I
it.
mentioned that something about me. I have never been at a Speakers Bureau meeting where I was not wearing a tie. And that's all because of Don Tungate. Don Tungate learned me how to dress because he told me that if you're the district governor, you have to dress for the occasion and you always have to wear a tie wherever you go. And so I did this tonight specifically to remind me to mention Don Tungate by not wearing a tie tonight. So thank you, Don, for that guidance, and you've made an example out of me ever since. So
How is Don doing? Do you know where he is?
I have a feeling he's not around anymore, but last time I talked to him, he was in a senior facility. And but he was, another Don Tungate story real quick. We were, a number of us, as we used to do often, go down to past district governors club and it had a whole car full of people.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Don Tungate was one of them, and he was extremely straight, very religious, very, very moral.
Jesus,
he
Mary,
was the
Joseph.
moral guideline post for anybody around.
Yep.
And one time he had to go to the bathroom. And we all pulled into a parking lot, and he said, well, I think there's one over there at that restaurant. He goes into the restaurant, and as he's coming out, only then did we realize that the restaurant he was coming out of was Hooters. And we were so upset. We didn't think of taking Don Tungate's picture coming out of Hooters so we could hold that against him whenever we wanted to get something out of him as the district leader. So anyway, Richard.
His question was, you can do it. We can help.
You can do it. We can help. Yes. All right. And Angie, did you have a few words to share about June before we say good night to the folks here?
Certainly. Thank you, Tom. First, I have a memory. And that memory was one of the best questions I ever asked someone, and that is the year I was district director, 2016, 2017. I asked Tom Jameson if he would be the Speakers Bureau chair, and he said yes. All right, June, from story to offer, mastering the interview. Deanne Gunneman, Sarah Kearney, and I will be facilitating an interactive session. We will talk just briefly about resumes and getting an interview and using your story for your strategy. We will also have an opportunity to interview in front of the group. So if anyone wants to volunteer to be interviewed, we're happy to take some volunteers ahead of time. But this will be very interactive. We'll be talking about your story, how to deliver, and we'll have a little bit of practice with a live panel. And that is June 3rd. Thank you, Tom.
Well, I know that after I hear that, who knows, at 85, I may be so enthused I'll go out looking for a job.
Hey, Tom,
But I am so glad you're doing it. So happy it's been planned. And we've been talking about doing this for quite a while. And what a way to have it be the final District 12 Speakers Bureau meeting and to provide that kind of a service for your community. And the big thing I am really hoping is that we get many non-Toastmasters to attend who may end up being Toastmasters, but at least we will increase. Maybe they'll think about being a Toast, even if it's 10 years later. They say, I remember that meeting, and that's why I got that job. So hopefully that will happen. Let me make this quick announcement. I said I would tell you who will be QS candidates next month.
Tom,
Yes.
this is Greg Scott. You asked me to come here tonight to speak. I worked hard for a presentation. Did you want me to speak tonight or save it?
Oh,
till-
yes. How did I miss you? Okay, maybe I was saving the past international director, Greg Scott.
Thank you, Tom, and fellow Toastmasters. It's been a long time since I've been able to get back to District 12. The last time I was there is to give the keynote speech for the district conference when Ruth Kipp was the district director at that time. I want to tell you that we are in for a big change. We are looking at developing a new district, 203. But it wasn't so many years ago that a lot of us were alive that we started a new district, District 12. And right now I look around and I see all these different committees, whether it's a transition committee or a realignment committee or leadership committees, working feverishly trying to prepare for the future of it. Let me take you back in time how we did it in District 12, how it worked, and how we made it successful. The first year as a district, Marion Bell was the district director, and we were not successful that first year. Tough road, putting things together, getting to know each other. We broke off from founders, and off and over, we came into our own little district. And then Carol Averill stepped up. This lady is a true hero of District 12. She was determined that this district was going to be distinguished. And I remember serving as I'd been an area director the last year, so she made me her club growth, guru or whatever. But this lady wrote letters. She worked hard. We didn't have the computers or anything else all that time. And the teamwork, the things that she moved, we were distinguished that year. That year, I joined them in Canada at the World's Fair as they were up on the stage getting that distinguished district, District 12. And was so proud to be part of that team, as we all were. It was during that year that the formulation of the strength of this district came about, because many mentors from outside District 12 came here. In District 33, we had people like Wendy Farrell, past international director, Frank Poyet, past international director, Bobby and Shorty Williams, past district directors, Tom Inch, Don Inch, distinguished Toastmaster, accredited speaker, past international director. And then we had Ken Carroll, Ken Averill, Chuck Weck, Kay, Ilona Sandlin, a number of people. We met together and say, what are we going to do to make the district focus? It was fun being part of this old team of ideas. And so the biggest point came up is that we need to train our club officers to be strong. Thus, Ken came up with the idea of TMU, Toastmasters University. And after putting it on, the world headquarters staff came over to visit, and they said to us, hey, you don't give out degrees, you can't call it a university. But they did gather the material we put together, went back to Toastmasters. And what do you know? We have TLI. District 12 started that. Just like District 12 started the first DTM and Bob Palmer. All these things started as a first.
Yeah.
Now, as we went forward for many years, Distinguished excelled. 91, 92, Distinguished Chuck Weck. 92, 93, Distinguished K Star. And that was the one year that World Headquarters threw out the membership requirement that year. We didn't have to, none of the districts that year made their membership growth requirement, and they threw it out. So thus we kept the chain going. 93, 94, Ken Averill distinguished. The 6th district director or governor was myself, Greg Scott, and we were presidents distinguished for the first time. And we as a team, we had a great team. I have two area directors, Richard Snyder and Rick Danzy, went on to be international directors later on. So I had a great team, not to mention the rest of them, as I remember the pictures. The following year, President's Distinguished number 6, 96, 97, Paul Clark, Select Distinguished. We had a run of distinguished districts back then because we worked together as a group, formulated together, not worrying about whether we used to be founders or whatever. And we became a strong district. Now, I wasn't quiet there either. There was other things I was enjoying learning about. When I was an area governor, like many of us, I was asking questions. What do we do? I don't understand all this. So I was constantly calling the Lieutenant Governor of Education and Training, Carol Averill, asking questions. Well, one night, Ken Averill answered the phone, and he told me a secret. He told me a secret. And I still swear by it and teach that today. Craig, if you read the district leadership handbook, you'll have 99% of your answers. And when I hung up the phone, I read it from cover to cover, marked it, and I carried that thing in my binder all the way through my leadership experience. I teach that at division area directors training and people I've mentored. I even taught Ruth Kep about that. Sat down there and because I remember installing Ruth Kep as a member of Toastmasters when she first stepped in.
Oh boy.
She called me to help her start Twisted Sisters Club, which was the gals with her pregnant on parole. And when we went over there, because my experience working in the prisons, working with inmates, and she was her first time, I enjoyed it. And Ruth we became very dear friends over the years. Now, in that same period of time, I worked and learned how to start clubs as a new member. For example, Lemon Street Toastmasters in 1990 produced a character in our Toastmasters arena known as Ann Yetke, or now Ann Knight. She was in the Lemon Street Toastmasters, and she was the first president, and we've worked for years together and lots of great men. The following year, we started Happy Talk in the City Hall. The next year, we started Speakeasy Club at UCR, and I still go there to visit. That thing since '92 is still in existence and running good. I feel good about being part of starting clubs that are long lasting. I can remember the Twisted Sisters getting passes for members of the Riverside Breakfast Club, about 8 of them. They go into the Norco prison, where we started the first Norco prison club of the staff. And in that, we had a lot of those folks. We also started the Norconian Club that same year, following right after. That was a little naval base right next to the prison. And Alan Powell, some of you may or may not know, he got his DTM by finishing as a sponsor of that club. And at the charter ceremony, because it was the Navy, guess who showed up as a keynote speaker? Past international president Helen Blanchard. And boy, when she walked in the room, the charisma and the aura just was amazing. This was an amazing person. And that was, we started a good friendship for many years. We met for lunch about once a month between Riverside and San Diego, getting to know each other. The next thing that happened was we had the 93 and 94 district conference when Ken Averill was the district director. Now, you may or not recall that was the year that our international president, Neil Wilkerson, visited our club with the theme. Back then, we had themes: people building people. But working feverishly behind the scenes, I had made up 200 little name tags with people building people with the District 12 emblem on it in plastic. And we advertised the first 200 to come to the conference, you'll get one of these name tags. We showed it out there. Well, it was 2 days later, I had to go make 100 more because I would have been hung to death if I had to turn people down. That was a huge success. We provided Neil, because he's from Canada, with a Blue Jays pitcher's jacket that we got noted for him, and a fire chief's helmet, the fire chief of Toastmasters International. And he still recalls those wonderful visits that this District 12 was one of the most hospitable districts that year that he attended. So I go back to when I was an area director, we held in the District 12, helped by Founders District, the first international convention of the Palm Desert Marriott. Prior to that, about a year, I had been out there on desert where there was no hotel, working with the contractor and other people about what they needed to do when building that for the fire department and the earthquakes they had out there to make sure they followed up there. So when we had that first convention, I sat there in the hallway as an area director at the information table, helping people out coming in. It was really neat. It was starting to feel good about it. And I looked across the hall and there's all these people with booths standing there, way down to the end. And I go, what the world are those people doing? And it looked like they might have been campaigning, when certainly they were. Well, come back into 1998, I had the end booth right across from that table, campaigning for international director when I was elected. So what goes around comes around. And it was such a thrill to be elected and have your home district there cheering and supporting you in doing that to serve. So when I think about the many, many hours that Ken Averill and myself sat there planning the Toastmasters Leadership Institute, using a giant photocopier, making them all out, bulk mailing all the programs for everybody for 8 years in a row. That's twice a year for TLI. We got to be very dear friends too, because we spent a lot of time, a lot of coffee while we did that together. We do have some true heroes all the way through this District 12. But I tonight salute this, and I dedicate my thoughts to, and I just talked to Carol Averill yesterday on the phone, to both Ken and Carol Averill, who were shining stars in getting this district off to the right direction with becoming distinguished, a start for distinguished, and getting TLI so effective that we enjoy it today. My thoughts of them, they're my best mentors, and I have so many pictures of memories that linger. Back to you, Tom.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you. I'm so sorry. I didn't somehow, I don't know how I missed you, but I'm glad you got in there, and I'm called to ask you to do that. And Greg, by the way, after almost 40 years in Toastmasters, is still mentoring our program quality director for next year that's running for next year. I mean, our club growth director from his club, our club. And by the way, I'll see you tomorrow morning at 7 in the morning. And a division candidate, and he's still mentoring young Toastmasters into going into leadership. So after all these years, all right, let me apologize to everyone for going a little late, and I won't apologize for next month because we may very well go over a little bit next month with 5 qualifying speakers. But those people that I'll mention are David Williams, Kevin Melkor, and Musa, our district director, Forrest, who's here tonight, and Michael Pollack. So come here next month, and we'll get more publicity about their topics and and their subjects and their photographs and so on. But next month, May the 6th, we will see you all here, and thank you for being here. And again, I'm sorry for going a little over. Like I said, I won't apologize. If we have 5 QS candidates next month, I'm not going to apologize. We might just go to 9:30. Who knows? Thank you all for being here. And thank you all online also. Appreciate it.